Hello, and welcome to our next session of UDK. And in this session, we'll be creating 3D game assets. Now, we're going to be using the program Softimage XSI because that is the program that the campus here uses the most for creating 3D assets and 3D animations. However, you can create these same kind of assets in any other 3D program, such as Maya, 3D Studio Max, or even Blender, as long as the 3D program in question can export a .fbx file, you'll be good. So anyways, over here we have a scene in which I've created two sort of elongated cubes, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to create a wooden prop fence. This way it remains simple and we can just do this together. So I'm going to create a primitive polygon mesh cube, and I'm just going to model this to meet the proportions of our wooden fence here that we're intending to create. So I'm going to stretch this out like this. Going to shrink this down a little bit, and of course make this way thinner. And let's say we're happy with this. So I'm going to move this over here and adjust this like this here and move this a little up. So let's say we're happy with this. I'm going to duplicate this by going over here to edit, duplicate, duplicate single. I'm going to move this object up like this and maybe make some final adjustments here on making this a little longer. There we go. So now we have our fence. So with our fence selected, we're gonna notice that each one of these parts don't have a texture on them, so we'll have to apply a texture map on this. So one at a time, I'm going to go to Properties, Texture Map, Cubic, since it's cubic in nature. And I'm going to do these to all my parts, or all my objects. So do this very quickly. And now all of our objects on the scene have a texture map. So we still have one last thing to do, which is each of these items are an individual object. So I need to merge these objects to create one object. So I'm going to select all of my objects by holding Shift and clicking on them. And as you can see in this perspective window and in this perspective window, all of my objects on the scene are selected. And I'm going to go to Polymesh and I'm going to merge this. When all of the objects are merged, this little window will pop up. Don't forget to hit your merge UVs, since we're going to be creating a texture for this gate or this little prop that we're making. So click the merge on this, and then you can close this window, and we're just going to move this to the side here. And you're going to notice that we're going to have two fences, right? One which is the one that's one object as a whole, and one that's still broken into pieces. So I'm going to freeze this guy, freeze, and now this is its own independent object, and now I can delete these objects here without worry. So I'm going to do that. And now I'm just going to move this over and just focus on our fence that we have. So now that that's all out of the way, now we can finally start messing with the UVs. To bring out the UVs texture editor window, I'm going to hit the Alt and then the 7 key on my keyboard, and as you can see, we have a texture editor window over here, which you can zoom in and out with the middle mouse wheel, and our textures and how they're affecting this wooden plank. So as you can see, when I zoom in, the textures are sort of stretched out, so this means we need to fix this. So First, I'm going to select the faces in which I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to click polygon mode, and then I'm going to hit the U key on the keyboard, and I'm going to click on the first face, hold shift, click on the second face. Oops. There we go. That's what I want. And I'm going to do this on the opposite side. So hold shift and click those two faces. And now I have the two faces like this. And I'm going to go back into my texture editor window here, and let's focus on some of the tools here that we're going to be using. Firstly, we have these two buttons here, the tear tool. So it's like you're tearing a piece of paper from something. And we're going to use the translate tool, and we're going to move this off here. So now you can see that we've torn this from the main UV over here, and it's now its own little independent thing. Now, one thing you need to be careful of is that when island mode is not selected, if you try to select a point and then try to move it, you can obscure the image. So in order to avoid doing this, it's best to use the ISL or island mode here, so that if you make a single selection of a point, it selects the whole entire face, so that you can move it and keep it uniformly scaled. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to start selecting the other faces here. So back in polygon mode, I'm now going to select this face here, along with these faces here. And now that I have those four faces selected, I'm going to tear this from the island, and I'm going to move it to one side. Alright. Next, I'm going to select a couple more faces here. So I'm going to select these ones over here that are on the outer edge. Rotate our fence. Select this. And then translate these off of here. Now, the translate tools can be toggled with X for scaling, C for rotating, and V for translating, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm moving that out of the way. So these three parts here are our wooden gates, all right, or our wooden planks on our gate. So next I'm going to finally select two more sections here. I'm going to select the entirety of this square wrapping this way. Alright, that's all done. And I'm going to also do this for this side, since it's going to be using the same texture. And pretty much anywhere where there is a red selection like this, it's going to influence that that texture. Sorry, I have to redo the selections here because the outer edges are still selected. So let me just quickly do that. Alrighty. And now that all that is taken care of, I'm going to go back to my island and tear that off. Then lastly, we have one last thing we need to do, which are the top and bottom parts here. So I'm going to click, press U on my keyboard again, and select the top part here, and the bottom part here, bottom part there, and lastly the top part here. And that makes its last island. So you'll notice that there are no more points. We have all the UVs we could possibly need for this selection. Whoops, I accidentally selected one side too many. Gotta be careful about that. So yes, that seems right. So I'm moving that, and there you go. So now we have our fence, and we can always select which ones to see which does what. So now I'm going to start scaling this so I can fit it onto my project and start turning on and off options here to best uh, make this work with what I'm trying to do. So if I hold the middle mouse button, it uniformly goes up and down, and if I hold the right mouse button, it uniformly goes left and right. So I'm just doing that. Select my island mode, making sure everything is going to fit properly onto my UVs here. So first let me see which one this texture is influencing, and it's influencing the top here. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. Disable that. Take these two guys. That. Reselect it. And put it just right here. Right on the edge. And make sure it just fits perfectly right in there. So sorry this takes a little bit of time, but pretty much this is what UVs are. Let's do that. And lastly, whoops, select these guys. Alrighty, so now you can see that on this window you can see that the texture is doing fine. I may want to shrink down the points over here on this end. Whoops. I'm not familiar with these controls just yet. But for the most part, that seems like something that I want. Alright, good. So now that that's done, I'm going to select the next face here, which is this. And I'm going to pretty much do the same thing. So I'm going to move this, take this off so I can select individual points and just sort of shrink this in a little bit, like that. And just move things into position, make sure that all that stuff is working like that. Oops. And let's say we're happy with this. And just like that. So now that that's done, we're going to select our next face here, which would be these. And this is going to be influencing all the sides over here. So I'm going to place this, shrink this down a little bit. And let's see here how best to do this. If I go into Clips Checkerboard, you're going to see how I'm doing all this UV stuff. And you can see the squares here are disproportioned, so let's try to proportion those. So I'm going to click off island mode here. So I gotta shrink this in like this. And then select the island mode and then move this in here. Take off the island mode and do this like that. And now we have a proportionate fence there. And lastly, we just need to do the sides. So sorry this takes a while. You can fast forward through all this nonsense, but it pretty much is what you got to do for all this. Scale this down. Say we're happy with this size. Place that over here. And then suppose this last one here, whoops, and move him in like this. And let's say we're happy with that. Ideally, you want to just solve this like some sort of puzzle where you try to use the most space as you can. I guess I could just place this over here to make it easier on myself. And now our UV for this gate is done. So everything seems right so that when we apply the texture to this, it'll work. So now I can go into my Photoshop here, create a file, new 512 by 512 thing, and I'm going to paint bucket fill this with black. Gonna file, save as, put this in my downloads, put that in here, and just name it black, make it a targa, save, and when it asks for 24, 32-bit, just click 24. So let me minimize that. Let me go into clips here, import clips, and then I'm going to go into my program files. So let me get rid of this, put in users. Need to go into my D drive. There we go. Wait. These folders are all so confusing. Here we go. UDK assets, wood example, and black. So now that we have our black, we can stamp this by going to edit. Oh, wait, I have to go into my object mode. Select this guy. Go into stamp, and then what we're going to do is we're going to stamp this as gate stamp. Going to make this into a targa, and I'm going to click OK, and then click yes. Now we're going to go back into Photoshop, and we're going to open this gate stamp. And I'm going to click this, and you're going to see that our yellow lines all show the proportions of our gate. So this is the side of our gate, this is the front of our gate, these are the wooden stool things. So now I get to have a little fun here and try to paste all the pictures that I got into this image. So I'm going to go into me downloads folder here, UDK or example, and I'm going to open all of these guys. Whoops. Drag them in here. Well, actually, I should probably just open them one at a time. Like this. And let's say we're happy with these kind of things here. So I'm going to select, make a selection here, just say I want this wooden plank thing. Gonna hit copy, gonna go into over here, gonna hit paste, whoops, and gonna scale this down, so transform scale, scale it down, let's say so we hit the yellow over here and the yellow over here, and let's say we're happy with that, so I'm going to click apply. I'm going to drag that in here again, or make a different selection and just be like, okay, I want this. Control C, go back in here, Control V, whoops, and just place that over here, do a transform. So that's going to be that part of our gate. Then we're going to have, let's see here, whoops, the end of our gate. So let's say I want this part. I'm going to copy that part and then paste it in here. Really scale it down. So this. And just fit it in this yellow thing uniformly as best I can. Like that. Apply the changes. Do it like this. Next I'm going to take this part and just take like a square part of this. Copy that. Paste it here. Edit, transform it. We're going to place this here. So stretch it out a little bit here and here. I'm going to apply that. And then we just need to make our last wooden plank thing. So I guess I'll select this guy here. Copy that. Paste it here. Edit, transform, rotate it to 90 degrees. Sure, why not? And then scale this down. Click apply. Put this in the background like that. And just toy around with it till I find something that I really like. So I'm going to place it like this. Click apply. Maybe stretch it out a little more to meet the proper proportions of the image, like that. And move it like this. And there you have it. Our texture is now complete. So now I'm going to save this as gate texture. Going to change this to a Targa. Click save. And then from here I can go into clips, import clips, and I'm going to put in the gate texture, and there you have it. We have our wooden gate. Now you can see that this has the same texture as this. You know, we could just take the two different faces. Like say for example, if I want this one to have a different face, just select this guy and just tear it out. And then I can give this its own face. But I would have to somehow fit it on there on my UVs. But you would understand how to do all that. But for now, just for the sake of getting this done. I'm going to say I'm happy with that. I'm going to export, file export, export FBX, and I'm going to put this in my D folder that I have. So let me change the file type to D. Whoops. Yeah, I might as well delete all this stuff. Go to my downloads, UDK textures, wood example, and we'll call this wooden gate. And then this window is going to appear. I'm going to embed the textures. I'm going to convert the image format to a Targa. I'm going to include the geometry in the hard edges, but take out the cameras and the lights. It has no animations, so uncheck all of that stuff. I'm going to give it a scene units of millimeters, and I don't need this guy here to show warnings. So I'm going to click OK, and finally our 3D modeling part is done. So now we go into UDK. I'm going to create a new package. I'm going to create call this assets package. Click OK. And I'm going to import our FBX. So it's in our D, downloads, and here it is. So I'm going to click OK, and there's our gate. I'm going to import the gate texture. Click OK. And then I'm going to apply that texture or create a new material doing this. Plug this into the diffuse. Click the green check mark. Double click my static mesh, go into its level of details, and apply our material by hitting the green check mark. And there you have it. You have your gate. And you have the top part, which has that, and the edges that has this wooden stuff, like this. So as you can see, very crude, very rushed. So it's not going to look as good as it could be, but you guys get the idea. So that's how you go about doing UVs. If you clean it up and make it look real nice, you can get some pretty cool looking objects in your levels. Well, anyways, that concludes this tutorial, and if you guys have any questions, send any questions, email me, and I'll get back to you guys.